Resumes don't predict success. You can be fooled in the interview, and candidates you thought were great only end up being average. When you find the right person for a role, magic happens. But how do you find the right personality in a sea of resumes? Introducing Traits, a world-class pre-employment personality assessment tool built to revolutionize how you hire and align your people. Say goodbye to the draining process of sifting through endless resumes. With Traits, you'll quickly identify top candidates and make more informed decisions based on comprehensive, data-driven reports. We've worked with hundreds of organizations and have taught them how to consistently hire top performers using our performance-related insights. We start by defining the personality of the job, ensuring your team is crystal clear on what they're looking for. Then, all candidates go through the Traits questionnaire, and we rank them according to fit. We uncover the risks of each one so you can make a confident hiring decision. Traits is backed by a team of experts that provide exceptional support throughout your hiring journey. From customizing the job model to providing insightful interview and reference questions, we're here to ensure your success. So why gamble with your organization's future? Choose Traits, find the right people, and unlock the true potential of your team. Visit www.traits.com to learn more about how Traits can transform your hiring process.
Okay, that was a great video. Hello, and everyone, and welcome to our Traits webinar. We're so glad you could join us here today. Before we dive in, let's just give everyone a moment to get settled and get comfortable. One quick reminder, you should all have received your workbook for today's session. If you don't have it, no worries. Our team will be sharing it in the chat link so you can download it directly. In today's session, it isn't just another webinar. It's a hands-on experience designed to change the way you communicate at work. In the next 45 minutes, you're going to learn 3 things. 1, how to recognize the 4 traits communication styles. 2, why miscommunications cost more than just time. It costs trust and performance as well. And 3, how small shifts in your approach can transform friction into stronger connections at work. Now let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Candace Terzansky. She has 15 years of experience in leadership, communication, and talent development, helping leaders and teams to improve their collaboration, performance, and trust. Candace, over to you.
Wow, Brian, that's quite the introduction. Thank you so much. My esteemed colleague, Mr. Brian, I appreciate you taking the time to introduce me. So as Brian mentioned, my name is Candace, and it's my great pleasure to be here with you. I'm just gonna do a quick note here and share my presentation. If you can just in the chat, let me know that you see what I'm seeing, that would be greatly appreciated. Just drop a note. Awesome. Hands up, excellent, fantastic. Thanks, Christina. I love people jumping in and interacting. So I'm so glad to be here with you. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most important leadership and teamwork skills, communication. We're going to explore why some conversations just click and why others seem to go sideways. What we want you to do is really think about what does it look like to decode what those differences might be for you and what that looks like in terms of the team around you and how that influences how you collect or connect with individuals more effectively. So as we dive right in, I'm just curious, who in this space is a people leader? If you could just drop that into the chat and let me know if you are a people leader. I'll give you a moment as you're responding. Excellent. Okay, we've got some people leaders. Awesome. We know how communication lands with some. Fantastic. Do we have anybody in sales on the call? Anyone in sales on the call? Okay, excellent. We've got some sales individuals. What about individual contributors? You're responsible for yourself and everything that goes across your desk? Anybody that's individual contributor on the call today? Excellent. Hey, Tracy, nice to see you. Delia, thank you. Excellent, fantastic. All right, let's jump right in. If you've been on a webinar with me before, you know that I love
Hey
interactivity.
Victoria,
So,
it's Josh calling from Paladin Technologies.
hi Josh, how are you?
It's Josh calling from Paladin Technologies.
Josh, I'm gonna get you just to silence yourself, please.
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
All right, there. Let's there we go. Perfect. So I want to know, why are you here? What made you sign up for this webinar on communication? So if you take a moment and hold up your camera to the screen, you're going to see that QR code. That QR code is going to let you access just kind of submitting a poll here. What brought you into our space today? Let's take a moment, scan. I'll give you a minute to review. Are you here to improve how you communicate at work? Are you here to better understand others and their communication styles? Are you here to strengthen your leadership and management skills? How to handle conflict more effectively, or to grow personally and professionally? I think we still have someone that's not muted on the call here. Let's just, there we go, that's better. Okay, so if you hold up your camera, I'd love to hear a little bit more about why you're here, and I'm going to do it myself as well. Are you here because you want to improve your communications at work? Share with me. All right, want to improve communication at work, a few people to better understand communication styles, some forerunners to strengthen leadership and management skills. I love that. Handle conflict more effectively, and then just some individuals that are really interested in personal growth. Excellent, perfect. So whether you're here to strengthen your leadership, whether you're here to strengthen your communication style, I truly do hope that you get to leave with something that's going to be important and valuable to you. So we're going to jump right in here and take a look at what we're going to talk about. So Concord Consulting, we've been working with organizations for almost 30 years to align talent and strategy. When we look at hiring, we look at leadership development, or whether we're looking at succession planning, our goal truly is to support companies and make people decisions that influence businesses. We use this psychometric tool called traits. It measures 7 enduring characteristics that help us uncover what really influences performance and what's behind communication. It helps us understand what motivates individuals, and it makes it in a really personalized way. It helps us understand in a very personalized way. Everybody has very unique dots, and those unique dots tell us a lot of different things. So our work has shown us that in time and time again, there's this heart, or at the heart of every strong team, every strong project or successful project, and strategic direction moving in an organization, the heart of that is truly communication. And that's what we're here today for, is we're going to strengthen communication. So have you ever really wondered why two conversations on the same topic can land completely differently? Happen to anybody, Brian? Does it ever happen to you?
Well,
Ever?
every day before I discover traits.
Excellent. Yeah. Or have you ever wondered why good intentions sometimes get misinterpreted? Has that happened to anybody? I can say it's happened to me. Or why miscommunication can build walls instead of breaking them down. I want you to think about one recent conversation where your message just didn't land the way that you had intended it. Maybe it was with a colleague, maybe it was with a client, or maybe it was just at home. Think about that one conversation where it just didn't land. Maybe you thought you were being clear, but the other person walked away with this completely different perspective. We've all had those moments. We've all had those moments where that's just a reflection of the reality of communication. It's rarely about what we say. It's truly about how things are received. So I want you to hold that example in your mind, and we're going to come back to it a little bit later. Sorry, I just need to find my mouse here. So I want you to imagine that you're walking into this team meeting. One person jumps in and says, hey, can we cut to the chase? Another person says, hang on a second, I've got this really great idea I want to share with you. Looking around, someone else steps in and says, do we really have all the information that we need to make that decision? The other individual on the table sits back and says, you know, what does everybody want? Try to smooth it over. If you are an introspect internalizer and you want to jot this down in your guide, go ahead and do so. However, I would love to hear from you. Which one of these sounds most like you? Is it person A, the person that wants to cut to the chase? Or person 1? Person 2 that wants to jump in with an idea? Person 3 that wants more information and more data? Or person 4? Oops, I got those mixed up. That wants to make sure everybody's on board. Which person are you? Person 1, person 2, person 3, or person 4? I've got person 2, cut to the chase mark. That's me. Maya 1. Excellent. Fantastic. Now I want you to really think about what happens when all of those different approaches start to collide in the same room. So when we think about that and we think about, okay, well, that's just a team meeting. Those are pretty typical. Those things happen every day, pretty routine. But here's the real test. What happens when the stakes start to go up? Meetings are really a way to share ideas, to debate, or to start planning. But when the conversation really matters, when emotions are really high, and when the outcome carries weight, that's when this natural style starts to show up even more strongly. Let's see how you might react when there's more tough or when we're entering tougher situations. So same idea, new situation. You're heading into a difficult conversation. Maybe you need to address a performance gap, or maybe you need to share some feedback that feels really uncomfortable. Feel free to drop in maybe one of those situations, those tough conversation that's kind of sitting on your mind into the chat. Certainly love to hear a little bit about what that could look like. But I want you to take a minute and picture yourself. How do you typically react? Difficult conversation. Fantastic. See, you get it. Some of us want to deal with it, jump in and decide and just move. Some of us want to talk it out. Others want to try and keep things calm. They just want to sit back. And then there's those individuals that want every detail reviewed before we're ready to move forward, before we're ready to jump into that conversation or digest it. This is where those differences just continue to start to show up. Excellent. All right, well, let's keep going here. So as we think about this as a turning point. Everyday conversations might feel smooth or might be smooth when there's differences. But when there's high stakes moments, sometimes that smoothness can get elevated and styles start to be amplified. The question is do these differences become conflict, or can they become complementary in those conversations? So I want you to think about the moments that communication misses. You write this detailed report and someone says, hey, can you just give me the Coles notes on that? Has that ever happened to you? Or have you ever said that? Or you're in this phase and you're thinking about all these really great ideas and someone says, hey, so that's great, but where's the background on that? Where's the research? What's the evidence that we need here? Or perhaps you want this decision and someone's sitting back and saying, hang on, we need to gather more input from the team before we move forward. Have we actually done our socialization and collected all the information that we need from all of the stakeholders? Or you're trying to build consensus and someone just wants to barrel ahead and says, look, I've got this idea and I think it's going to work. Let's do it this way. So I'm sure that this is happening to you, or this has happened to you. But which one happens most often? Scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, or scenario 4? Which one happens most often to you? Keeps things calm, excited. Okay. So we've all had these moments when intention is really good, but the way that it's received just completely misses the mark. Yeah, it's a style clash at work. These aren't failures in efforts. They're just differences in styles. So here's the thing, when communication misses the mark, it's not usually about the words themselves. Most of us go into conversations with the right intent. Here's the real kicker in that, though. Others don't hear our intent. They experience our style. They experience the pace that we move at, the amount of detail we give or want, the energy that we bring. Miscommunication isn't usually about the actual words. It's about how they're received and how they're filtered through another person's lens, style, or comfort zone. So that tension that you're thinking about in those scenarios, that's where small shifts in your approach can start to turn that misfire into traction, and where that collaboration can really start to take off. So let's get somewhat more personal. We all have these people. Think about the people that are really hard for you to relate to or work with. Who's hardest? The one who's pushing for decisions before you're ready to make a decision? That person that's kind of pushing ahead? The one that has 10 ideas before lunch, but you're not seeing the follow through on the ideas? The one who avoids taking the stand and just nods or defers to others? Yeah. Or the one who needs one more report? Yeah. So I want you to think about this for yourself and think about what creates the most friction for you. You already probably know who this person is, or you know who or what type of situations cause this. So this one colleague or this one client, the one that just drives you up the wall because their way of working is so different than yours. Let's go a little bit deeper. Why or who's your toughest match, and why are they tough? Is it their speed? Is it the detail, the consensus, or the bulldozing? Take 10 seconds and again, imagine that person in your head. What is it about their style that makes it harder for you to connect with them? So I want you to take a minute and drop 1 or 2 words in the chat. What's the behavior or the thing that makes it hardest or most difficult for you with that particular individual? That toughest match. I'll give everybody a minute to think and type. 1 or 2 words. What's the behavior that makes your toughest match most difficult? Processing time, lack of engagement. Really good, Carlo. Christina. Indecisiveness. Bulldozing without a pain. I'm guessing, Brian, it was a plan. Yeah. Too many words. Michelle, thank you. People that focus on the details, the plan. No follow through. Excellence. So that clash right there, that's a clue. It's a clue for you. It's the intersection where your style and theirs just don't line up. That's where this insight starts to come in. It's about the patterns underneath that, the way that people are wired. When we can recognize those patterns, we can actually do something about them. Start to notice those themes. We all struggle with different matches, but the patterns are going to start to feel familiar to us. And that's where this is important. It's not about being wrong. or being difficult. It's about how your styles are starting to collide and where that frustration lives, and also where that insight begins. So I judge myself by my intent, but others judge me by my behavior. Think about that for a second. When I say something, I know what I mean. I know the context, I know my intentions, and I know they're usually good, or they're always good. But the person on the other side, they just don't see the intent. They only see the behavior, the words I choose, my tone, my timing. It's the filter that every message is received. I want you to think about maybe some of the situations where perhaps your intention has been misunderstood, even though you had completely good intent, as we all do. And if you have a minute, drop it into the chat. You had a situation where maybe your intent and perception didn't really align with the conversation that you were having. Meant well, but it didn't come across that way. Type of situations. Mark, happens all the time with my wife and I. Yeah, it can. My husband's also extremely detail orientated, and his style is very different than mine, so I can feel that. What else? There's some other situations where maybe there's been a gap in between intention and perception. Maybe it's been providing feedback. Intention is to support someone, help them grow, give them something just to think about. Perception is critical. I didn't do it well enough. Performance reviews, Brian. Yeah, those can be sensitive too. Any other situations that come to mind? Be a minute. Not taking time to understand their perspective. Yeah. Intention and perception, right? Asking questions. So up to this point, we've really been looking at communication and what it means from a personal level, how you tend to show up, who's toughest for you to work with. But the real cost and the real opportunity starts to show up at a team level. When miscommunication is left unchecked, it can create silos, it can build friction, it can stall projects. We've all seen it, where there's initiatives that have dragged on, where there's been duplicated effort, conversations that keep circling and circling. People really aren't aligned. And I want you to think about the opposite. When people start recognizing styles and adapting in the moment, everything starts to shift. Breakthroughs happen faster. Trust starts to grow. Collaboration starts to feel smoother. The team starts to gain this level of momentum. So drop it in the chat, or feel free to add it to your notebook. What would it mean if your team cut miscommunication down by 20%? What would the biggest difference be, or what would you notice if your team could cut miscommunication down by 20%? This applies whether you're a people leader, whether you're in sales, or whether you are an individual contributor. Better connections, greater efficiencies, Mark. Yeah, fantastic. Harmony increases, less meetings, more doing. Yeah, Carlo. Happiness, less disagreements. Yeah. Elevation at all levels, better morale, more productivity, better customer service. Yeah. More referrals if you're in sales, absolutely. So I want you to think that, even those little and those small shifts on how we connect can have a really huge ripple effect, a ripple effect on performance. So when we think about that, we think about the payoff. And why is decoding communication style, or why decoding communication styles isn't just an exercise. It's really this powerful lever for team success. So let's unpack this a little bit more. So those little scenarios that we explored earlier, the meeting, the tough conversation, the moments where things just didn't land, they're not random. The truth is people repeat behavior patterns that feel natural to them. Anyone do this? I can tell you I do this. I always step into what I'm most comfortable with, especially when I'm dealing with difficult situations. Yeah, 100%. So this pattern, this comfort zone, what feels natural to us. Think about that. And I want you to do this little activity with me. I want you to cross your arms. Take a second, cross your arms. Okay. Probably crossed them the exact same way you usually do. Now I want you to change that, flip it, cross them the other way. Now that you've switched it, you've put the other arm on top. Yuck, does it feel awkward? A little bit, right? I was at the gym the other day and our trainer was trying to get us to put our weights differently while you're moving. And I was like, I'm not coordinated as it is, let alone doing something I'm not comfortable doing. So that's exactly what it feels like when we start to shift our styles. We go back to what's natural, even when it doesn't always work for others. Here's the key. Adapting doesn't mean changing who you are. It means starting to flex on how you connect. How you connect so that your message starts to get through. Even if you don't, or you didn't physically cross your arms with us a little bit earlier, you can imagine it. You can imagine that one way feels really natural to you and the other way just feels really off. That's how communication habits work. We default to what's most comfortable. But sometimes sometimes to really connect, we need to stretch just enough to meet others where they are at. Brian put a note in there, shifting our styles shows growth in our presentations. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's why the instincts you noticed earlier, how you walk into a meeting, how you handle a tough conversation, these things aren't random. They come straight from your comfort zone and the way that you communicate. So I want you to think about what actually shapes that comfort zone for you. What determines whether you push up for action, whether you're the person that likes to brainstorm out loud, or you're the person that wants to keep the peace, or you step back and look for the detail. That's where we're going to head next. So we talked about comfort zones. Let's look at what actually shapes them. Think about the last time you were in a meeting and someone jumped right in, sharing opinions, pushing the group forward. Others sat back, asking questions, maybe just listening, weighing things carefully before they're speaking. Which one feels most like you? Drop it into that chat. Are you the one that jumps in, sharing your opinion and thoughts? Or are you the one that's holding back, stepping back, listening, or waiting to ask questions carefully? Got some jump ins. All my people that are sit backs or sitting back, thinking. Asking and people focus. Yeah. Excellent. So this is where that difference starts to show up. That difference is what we call assertiveness. Do you need to lead with your voice? Do you lean into telling? Perhaps you lean into directing, deciding? Or do you lean more into asking, listening, drawing others out, and building alignment? And I want you to think about what people were paying attention to in the same meeting. Some people zeroed in on those facts, the data, the tasks. That might be you. Others focused more on the people, the relationships, the energy in the room. How is everybody doing? That's sociability. Do you naturally put more emphasis on people or tasks? Drop it into the chat. What do you think? If you're being honest with yourself, more emphasis on people or tasks? So when you put assertiveness and sociability together, that gives us 4 distinct ways of showing up in conversations. Once we see these patterns, a lot of the frustrations that you've felt, a lot of the wins you've experienced, those challenges that you've encountered with communication are going to start to suddenly make some sense to you. So our 4 styles, those 2 dimensions, assertiveness and sociability, it helps us understand 4 distinct communication styles: analytical, driver, supportive, and expressive. Each has unique strengths and each brings blind spots. So here's where this comes to life. The driver, the top right, someone who's high on assertiveness and lower on sociability. These drivers are direct, decisive, results focused. They want action, they want outcomes, and they want them now. Think about the people that you're thinking about earlier, the situations, the challenges that you've run into, or just people that you either connect or are disconnected to in communication. Are they displaying those type of things? Bottom right, expressive, high in assertiveness and high in sociability. Expressives are energetic, enthusiastic, and idea-driven. They thrive on these possibilities. They bring this level of creativity, and these are individuals that like to get others engaged. Next to our expressives, the bottom left quadrant, we've got lower assertiveness and higher sociability. The supporters are steady, they're loyal, they're harmony focused. They work to keep people really comfortable, connected, and included. Things populating in your head, people around you, you're noticing things. So the top left-hand side is the analytical. This is someone who shows up lower in both assertiveness and sociability. Analyticals are cautious, they're detail-oriented, and they're fact-focused. They want accuracy, data, and structure before they're going to move ahead. So think back to those scenarios that we were playing with earlier. The person cutting to the chase, that driver. The one bursting with those ideas, the expressive. The one focused on keeping everybody comfortable, that would be the supportive. And the one asking for the data before deciding is the analytical. So those instincts that you're looking at and thinking about earlier, again, not random. They connect directly to these 4 communication styles. They also connect directly to your communication style. Let me pause for a moment. Now that you've seen those 4 styles, let's turn this back on ourselves. I need to think about which one of these feels most like you. Or before you respond to that, maybe what would someone else around you say you are? Sometimes those answers are the same, and then sometimes they're not. You can drop it in the chat or feel free to scan your QR. Are you analytical? Are you a driver? Expressive? Supportive? I want you to remember that this isn't really about boxing yourself in. It's about really noticing where your comfort zone is. You naturally are going to lean into where you're comfortable. The style you naturally lean into is also the style that's going to impact your everyday conversations. One driver. All right. So let's think about styles and clashing. Has this happened to anyone? You're in a meeting and someone comes across way too strong and you think, wow, they're being really pushy here. Drop it in the chat. You can just put a little emoji there, or feel free to show a reaction. Yeah, Christy, thumbs up. You're in this meeting and you think, wow, so pushy. Lots of meetings. So I want you to put yourself in that person's shoes. You walk out of that meeting, what do you think they might be thinking? You're thinking they're pushy. What do you think they might be thinking? Feel free to drop it into the chat. I got so much done. Yeah, that could definitely be. Audience is timid. Yeah, Carl, it could be that, right? You know, could be, why is everybody dragging their feet? What's the holdup? Same conversation, two different filters that show up. So that's what happens again when those styles start to collide. It's not about, or it's not that either person is wrong, it's that what one needs isn't what the other is giving. So when a driver is pushing for results, a supportive wants to make sure everybody feels included. Put them together and there's pressure, sparks start to fly. It's not about intent. It's really about those filters and how that influences what we're noticing. So here's the tricky part. The very thing we see our strengths as. So if you're a driver, you're thinking, I can move things forward. Others see as blind spots. For example, a driver may see themselves as being really efficient, but others are going to experience in them as being pushy. If you're an expressive, you may see yourself as being creative and inspiring. Drop it in the chat. What do you think others might see? If we think about that poll we had a little bit earlier, you've said, I feel like I'm an expressive. What do you think others might notice about that? What's that blind spot? And as you're thinking about it, not necessarily what I think about myself. Yeah. If you're an expressive, talk things through. Yeah, scattered. Absolutely. Scattered, potentially disorganized when you're expressive because you're just talking. You need to talk it out. A supportive, you may see yourselves as being considerate and friendly. What might others read that as? You're supportive. Very insightful, Carla. What else? As a supportive, you might see yourself as being considerate and friendly. Others might seeing pushover. Yeah. They might be seeing someone that's hesitant, someone that's not willing to make decisions. As an analytical, we may see ourselves as being really rational and thorough, but others might see us as being what? Rational, thorough. If you think about those styles that collide, if your style collides with the analytical, what part of that? What might you notice? What could be that their strength you see as maybe a blind spot? that different filter. Might be thinking they're being cold or even potentially overly critical. When you're thinking about someone that's an analytical, they see themselves as rational and thorough. Others see something very different. Yeah, analysis paralysis. So this is why styles sometimes clash. It's not that someone's wrong, difficult. It's just that their strengths are being received differently, dependent on the situation and dependent on who's on the other side of that and what their style is. So as we think about wrapping up what these blind spots are, I want you to take a minute and reflect on two questions. Which of these strengths might sometimes be misread as a blind spot? Or sorry, which of your strengths might be misread as a blind spot? I want you to think about something that feels really natural to you. An example might be decisive, enthusiastic, patient, detail-focused, but it might land differently with someone else, or might land completely differently for others. So which of your strengths might sometimes be misread? And if anybody's willing to share, drop it into the chat. I'll say that my decisiveness is sometimes misread. Yeah, sometimes try to be inspiring, but could be seen as pushy. Thanks for sharing. Not driving enough. Yeah, the sitting back, Carlo. Absolutely. Michelle, too factual. You want the facts, the data. Mr. Brian Lee Phillips, overconfidence. Yeah. I love that reflection, that real moment. So I want you to think back to that mismatch earlier. What do you think's behind that friction? Whether you want to drop it into the chat or you just want to write it down, I want you to really think about, how you see yourselves and how someone else might be seeing you. And think about what's really behind that friction. Could it be that what you see is your strength, they're experiencing as something else? Or that their style just simply doesn't align with you? Yeah, values and contents or filters. Not considering bigger picture responsibilities of others. Yeah. So I want you to think about what could one shift look like. So you've got some insights into the 4 communication styles: analytical, driver, expressive, supportive. You've got some background to understand what's behind that. When someone's higher on assertiveness, lower on sociability, they tend to be drivers, less influenced or focused on relationships, more focused on results. When someone's higher on sociability, higher on assertiveness, they tend to be more expressive, build relationships. And someone's lower on assertiveness and higher on sociability, they want to be supportive, analytical. And if there's one shift you could make to communicate differently with someone, think about the person that maybe you've got friction with, or think about, someone that your style collides with. What's that one shift you might try to make after our time today? And drop it into the chat. I know, tough questions at the end of the day. Letting go of my biases. Yeah, your style, right? Your patterns. You know your patterns, you know what you prefer. As an expressive, I need to flex to listen. Thanks, Brian. Give more time for people to respond. Be patient. I like that, Michelle. Showing up to be a way for someone else, and opposed to being the way that you're most comfortable at. Checking with others. Analytical. I always thought myself as rational, detail oriented, but now I get why some people might see me as indecisive or overly cautious. Yeah, Ryan. Excellent. So when there's that shift in communication, it isn't about changing who you are. It's about flexing how you connect. You own half the responsibility for making the conversations work. But here's really the good news with that even with just a few small shifts, you can have a really huge impact on communication. When you flex just a little, you make it easier for other individuals to truly hear your message. So I want to leave you with a few quick tips for each style. When you're a driver or when you're communicating with a driver, be clear, concise, and focus on results. Skip all of the fluff. When you're dealing with an expressive, let them share their ideas and bring their energy. Acknowledge their creativity before grounding it. If you're communicating with a supportive, slow down. Start to build some trust. Include them in the process. They really value harmony and collaboration. And when you're dealing with an analytical, bring the information, bring the background and the data. Be really precise and give them time to process the information. They need clarity and they need structure. Doesn't take a lot of personality to shift this. Sometimes just being more intentional, being patient with yourself is all that it takes to start to transform that conversation and ensure that your communication, your style, your intent lands with the person that you're communicating with. So let me pause. Any questions at all about communication styles? So before we let you go, I would love for you, two-way straight out. Carla, and I was going to say, what's one thing that stands out to you? And you're a step ahead of me. Two-way straight. Absolutely. When there's miscommunication, each party owns half of that. Lots to think on, Mark. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, Christina, not that you need a lot of work. You just have the opportunity to grow. So excellent. I'm going to pass it to my esteemed colleague, Mr. Brian. Wrap us up and take us home.
Wow, Candace, awesome job. Such powerful session today, and we're just giving it away for free. That's awesome. Let's take a moment now just to recap. Today's session. We learned and discovered our own communication style. Learned how to recognize the communication style of others. And we saw how really small adjustments in flexing our own communication styles can really lead and transform to greater outcomes. But here's the key, let's not, let this stay as an insight that we just heard today, and let's put it into action. And if you're ready to take that next step with us, pull out your phones, take a picture of the QR code, register for our next upcoming sessions. We got a triple session coming up October 16th, 23rd, and the 30th from 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon Mountain Time. We're going to learn how to adapt and strengthen our communication skills, apply strategies across, those 3 interactive sessions, build stronger collaboration and leadership habits. And if you register before October 10th, you get that early bird pricing at $350. And just to add, the additional value, you'll receive that communication style report personalized to you as an individual, and that's valued at $200. So take out your phone, take a photo of that. Now, if you're working with a larger team and you prefer something more customized, we also have another option where you can book a personalized session with us, and we will deep dive and look at your team's unique dynamics and provide a customizable action plan to strengthen communication and collaboration right away. And again, take your phone out again, take a photo and book a call with us, and we can talk that over and how that will sort of roll out for you and your team. So yeah, as a reminder, you'll receive an email with today's replay, resources, and links to continue your journey with us. If this is your first time joining us, know that we run new webinars every month. Be sure to keep an eye on our social media pages for upcoming dates. You don't want to miss our next session and see what's next. We look forward to helping you and taking your communication style to the next level. And yeah, wishing you all a wonderful day. So thank you so much for joining us again.